Now, I'm gonna say this, and I'm shout out to Marquette. I'm glad how he broke that down to that young man. It's one thing to have actual facts on an individual than to actually just go by hearsay. And what I mean by that is, it's always this whole idea that MLK was cheating on his wife, or that Elijah Muhammad was having out of wedlock relationships and having children out of wedlock with underage girls. These are just based on speculations and not actual facts. Now, see, the whole thing is people, I'm going to show y'all something. If any of you all heard this whole idea that MLK was having a sexual affair with another woman, and you actually got people that actually believe that shit. Okay, let's say that he did. You think the powers that be for Edgar J. Hoover and all of them used that to put that out there to discredit MLK? For all those people who was thinking that, do you think the FBI would have used that to discredit Malcolm X? Martin Luther King, if he was out there having extramarital affairs with other women? You think they wouldn't use that to discredit him? That would have been a motherfucking a devastating blow in the civil rights movement if they actually had proof of that. But they don't. Those are just speculations that's not true. It's based on speculation. Okay? Now, take Elijah Muhammad. When they say Elijah Muhammad, in Spike Lee's movie, because we all know Spike Lee movie is just basically, was made, endorsed and written by the Little Hat people. They had to demonize Elijah Muhammad, the teacher of Malcolm X. And they did drive a wedge in between Malcolm X by creating these speculations that that Elijah Muhammad, his teacher, was having extramarital affairs with underage women and having children with underage women, when these were just speculations, not real true facts. And this was done to actually drive a wedge between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, because Malcolm X was the national speaker for the Nation of Islam at the time. So he was saying things about JFK when JFK was assassinated. He was saying some negative things about JFK being killed, and the Nation of Islam didn't approve of that, because they said JFK at the time, he was doing things for black people, and he was helping black people. So that was the wrong thing for Malcolm X to say about JFK's assassination. So he put him under suspicion. Suspension, for speaking. So Malcolm X, who was the type of man he was an outspoken man, and Malcolm X have always been an outspoken man. He said, damn, if you're gonna silence me, I'm gonna leave. And he left the Nation of Islam and took some people with him. You did? Now, it was said that it was people that were from the Nation of Islam that actually assassinated, and that the Nation of Islam and the FBI up under Edgar J. Hoover conspired to kill Malcolm X. That was not true. That was completely done by agents who have infiltrated the Nation of Islam just to do a job, to kill Malcolm X. Those were people, FBI agents that infiltrated it, that killed Malcolm X, not Nation of Islam leaders. And then, furthermore, to elaborate, they tried to throw it on Louis Farrakhan and say, well, while he was speaking in Boston at the Audubon Ballroom, Farrakhan was speaking across the river from him. So that made it look as though Farrakhan, they set it up like that to make it look as though Farrakhan had something to do with Malcolm X assassination, when Malcolm X didn't have, Farrakhan didn't have nothing to do with that. Those were infiltrators in the Nation of Islam that were FBI informants that were in the Nation of Islam. And like I said, you had informants in the Black Panthers. They did the Black Panthers the same way with what's his name? Robert Kiyosaki, and that that infiltrated the the Black Panthers. And you had, they said Stokely Carmichael was an FBI informant. So you had most of your black organizations infiltrated by the FBI, and sometimes the FBI worked with the CIA. You know, and they made Malcolm X Malcolm X target number one, especially when he was going abroad after he left the Nation of Islam and speaking to people who the United States deemed that as their enemies. Farrakhan did the same thing with Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and the president of Venezuela at the time, Hugo Chavez. He did the same thing, and they said by him going conspiring with people that against the United States, Farrakhan said, well, if the people, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And then they said, well, that's kind of, when he was up with Mike Walters, Mike Walters, he said, don't you think the conspiring enemy is a threat to the United States? He said, just as much as the United States have threatened black people, they ain't in a motherfucking position to tell who black people should make alliances with when they haven't been firm with us. So Farrakhan destroyed Mike Wallace with that shit. Just with that alone, he destroyed Mike Wallace. Because he said the United States and FBI, the same people who told him he can't go and talk to Gaddafi, he can't go and talk to Saddam, been killing all our goddamn leaders up. And the government been killing all our leaders up. The U.S. government been attacking us, bombing our communities and shit. So for them to say, well, you conspiring with enemies, and Farrakhan was like, what you mean, what enemy? As far as I'm concerned, y'all been an enemy to black people since we've been in here, been over here. Y'all been enemies to our people. So what the fuck are you talking about? He didn't say it like that, but that's how I would have responded. How the fuck you gonna tell me that I'm conspiring with enemies, and then y'all made it y'all place to make us target number one, the U.S. government? So, like I said, all this shit that you heard, is just mere speculation. Cause like I said, the MLK was actually cheating on his wife, Coretta Scott King. Back then they would have ran with that shit, put that shit all in the media just to discredit the movement. Just to discredit it. But they didn't have proof of it. It was just speculation. Same thing with Elijah Muhammad getting killed, with Malcolm X getting killed by Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan orchestrating it. That was another lie too, it was speculation, not true. It's sensationalism. That's all it was. Not true.